Good morning. This is Jason Dean at Film Fanatic headquarters. Thanks again for everyone checking out all the videos. Big shout out and thank you to Ray Leone. We did a video, an interview. It's a series I've been wanting to pursue more, and uploading videos where I'm interviewing people from different walks of life that are tied, to various degrees of the film industry. And Ray was awesome. He's a good friend, and he was, he's had a lot of experience in the indie horror film world as an actor, but he's also like worn a lot of different hats in that industry. So that was great. We did a show on Saturday, and I posted it. So it's been really great that people have been checking out those videos. That's something I want to pursue more. So stay tuned for more videos around those kinds of interview segments. That's probably my favorite part of doing this whole venture or adventure is that exchange of ideas and learning about different facets of the industry that I really love that I didn't really know about, and getting that perspective. So it's very, very cool. And I want to thank everybody. The views have been going up. I've been getting more subscribers for these different videos. I've been trying to change things up a little bit by doing, I guess you could call them like specialty shows. I did a show where I covered just soundtracks, film scores, and composers for film that I really love and that are a huge source, a continuous source of inspiration for me. That was a lot of fun to do, and again, that was like one of the first, I guess what you consider the specialty shows, and that had a lot of views, and I got a lot of good feedback for that show. And also, I did a show recently. Also on Saturday, I did a show where I just talked about kind of where we are now, well, at least how I feel we are now as a public, as far as how we interact with our social media platforms in regards to reviewing films and talking about films and exchanging ideas, and then also where people who are paid reviewers, were what they do with from their standpoint as far as reviewing films. And I more or less talked about films that get real negative press through reviews and whatnot, and then also get an incredible amount of fan backlash. And I talked about used some examples of films that were initially not really liked, or to a degree even hated when they came out, and didn't make anything in the box office, never found an audience, but then years and years later they became like cult hits, or they eventually found an audience, and the filmmakers responsible for those films actually started to make some money from it. So I did a show all about that, and kind of where things are, where at least I think things are kind of at right now. So, but that was a fun show. So stay tuned for, I'll do some more shows where it's going to be focused on. Obviously, it's all tied to film, but there'll be more specialty shows of where I'll focus on particular things. I talk about a lot of these things anyway in a lot of my videos, but at times I'm trying to keep it a little bit more focused, and so that's where the idea of these specialty videos came out. So thanks again for chiming into those. Those have been a lot of fun, and also it definitely causes me, and I have to put on a different hat to think about things like that, and to format it in that way. So I really appreciate it. So this film that I'm going to be covering today, All the President's Men, starring Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford and Jason Robards. This came out in 1976, and this was a film I've been wanting to get to for a very, very long time, kind of almost since I started doing video content at all. Even back about a year ago, when I started doing the Facebook Live videos. That was my first kind of venture into doing video stuff, and it's kind of grown to now where I have this video channel. But even back then, this was a movie I really wanted to get to, and I was really excited to eventually do it. But I've gotten inundated with a lot of other films that I've been getting into lately, and a lot of other films I've been buying, and so. But today's the day, so super excited to talk about this film. This is one of my all-time. People have their top 10 lists, top 20 lists. I very much. I'm definitely in that headspace. I'm in that mindset a lot about films that kind of make lists, but I keep them. I don't really. I haven't presented that on this channel where I make, like, say, a definitive top 10 for my own, or say top 20 greatest horror films or just greatest films of all time. I haven't really done that in a formal way, and I'm not sure if I would do that. But in very much an informal way, I definitely have my favorites and films that I always go back to. Like, I did a show around Thanksgiving on The Godfather, which I can say hands down is my favorite film of all time. And this is right up there. This would be, if I had to say, make a list, like a regular formal list, like, top 10, this would probably be like number two or number three, and maybe even a close tie for maybe the number one spot. That's how much I love this film. Came out in 1976. It's a, I think it's the very the greatest, like, definition of like a classic American thriller, and essentially it's about the Watergate scandal with involving Richard Nixon. And it's centered on Bob Woodward, who was Robert Redford played Bob Woodward, and Carl Bernstein, who Dustin Hoffman played Carl Bernstein. And it was centered on these two reporters from the Washington Post who researched the botched burglary of the Democratic Party headquarters in the Watergate apartment complex, which led to the mysterious source code name, which is known as Deep Throat. And this eventually led to Richard Nixon resigning. And essentially, this film is really about, like, the setting and the environment is basically, it takes place in these various locations, but it's mainly centered in, like, a newsroom where it's a group of guys talking and exchanging ideas. And that's really all it is. It doesn't have any, like, quote unquote action or car chases or explosions or CGI or whatnot. It's pretty much, it's so character driven, and the script was so incredibly conceived and so incredibly executed. The story itself, which is always, I always find it fascinating, was actually created by and written by Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, who are the original characters that this film is based on. This came out in 1976. It was directed by Alan J. Pakula. And I have seen this movie thousands of times, and I have multiple copies of this film. I have it on. I think I even have it on VHS. I have a couple of copies of it on DVD. I have another edition of it on Blu-ray. This copy I just recently bought, maybe about a year or two ago, and this is like a special collector's edition. It's got a bunch of special features and really great interviews with Robert Redford and all the everybody who was involved with the production of this film. And it was directed by Alan J. Pakula, who was a pretty famous director at that time. He went on. This film too is amazing too because it was nominated for a bunch of awards in that year, but it was never in '76. But it never won anything, which to me is always an amazing thing when it happens, and just kind of disheartening when you know that's one of the reasons I've kind of checked out of following films that are nominated, but then something else is overlooked. Like, one recent example, Denis Villeneuve was up for a bunch of awards for his remake of Dune, also one of my favorite directors. And Dune won Best Picture, but he didn't win, Best Director. And it's kind of a farce, so I checked out. But this director, he has quite a few films. Clute came out in 1971. The Parallax View is another film that he made. He's made some really great films. There's Alan Pakula also made the iconic film To Kill a Mockingbird, starring Gregory Peck, which is another iconic movie. The Sterile Cuckoo, he also directed, starring Liza Minnelli. So he's got, like I said, Kalute, which he directed with Jane Fonda. That was also up for, a bunch of awards when it came out. So he's got a tremendous track record. But this is, I think, probably the best thing he's ever done. And again, it's to me, it's the epitome. All the President's Men is like the epitome of just the quintessential American thriller. There's so much tension in this film, and it's such a great detective story. And the other aspect of it, what I love about it is that it's kind of told in real time. So you see these events kind of taking place, and then there is this full real time development of the story. And you're just getting all of this information, and as a viewer you're just being pulled in. At least I am. You're just getting pulled in more and more about, as to where this is leading, and that you come to this conclusion that there is this like grand kind of conspiracy happening that's caused by the government, with the Vietnam War in the background. And this story eventually led to Nixon resigning. And it really plays with the notion of truth to power. It's not really about I don't look at this film as being a political film. I look at it as just a truth to power, where journalism, to me, it's the true representation of what real journalism is. And it's basically calling people out and about the idea and the notion of true accountability. And this film was nominated for numerous awards. Like I said, best screenplay, best production, a whole bunch of others, but it never won anything, which I just think is astounding. I've always been a huge Robert Redford fan. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is another, just an amazing film. He also came out with a film fairly recently, Hope Is Lost, which is, I think, just an awesome movie. That's probably something I will eventually get to. And he's getting up there in age, but he's still very much involved with the film industry. He, of course, started the Sundance Film Festival quite a few years ago, and he's, to a degree, has like paid it forward to the whole acting industry and the film industry by creating his own festival that helps cultivate new filmmakers, independent filmmakers and what have you. But just a tremendous movie, and I was super excited when I got this on Blu-ray, because the other editions I have of this film don't really have any special features, and there's not really any behind the scenes look or interviews. There's no documentaries about the actual film, so I was super excited. The Blu-ray transfer for this film is just spectacular, with the picture and the sound, and just like the review says, I feel like it's an extremely exciting detective story. And I think there's it's one of those films that I think initially people think, on who have never seen this film, think that it's going to be a real politically based kind of a film, where it's going to be obviously taking sides on some kind of political idea, or some kind of waving some kind of political flag. I don't even look at that at all. I look at it as it's just to me a classic American thriller. So, and again, that's testimony to a film that in its own, it's truly a definition too of a standalone film, and it's testimony to me that stands as testimony to me that it's the way how well executed this film is, and how gripping it is. I can't say enough good things about it. So if you get a chance, please see this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. This edition in particular is really great. It came out fairly recently on Blu-ray with this special edition. There's probably other editions since then, but easily one of my favorite films of all time. And it's hard to believe that this film came out in '76. every time I watch it, and again, it's similar to The Godfather in a lot of ways because it's one of those films, I can be over, say, my folks' house or be somewhere or wherever it is. And if this film happens to be, on cable or someone's watching it, whatever I'm doing, whatever part that the film is at, I stop doing what I'm doing and I'm just like glued to the screen automatically. To me, it's just captivating and it's such a great thrill ride. And on paper, you could look at it as well. It could be kind of a boring film, but it's just the writing is so great, the acting is so great, and it's such a great thriller. So this is Jason Dean at Film Fanatic. Please check out this American classic, All the President's Men, 1976, starring Dustin Hoffman, Jason Robards, and Robert Redford. Thanks again, and if you get a chance, please like and subscribe to my channel. I love and greatly appreciate all the support I've been getting here, so stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Peace.